Hello and welcome Solent Series, episode number 2. Yes, we're not in the box, we are in Chalk Valley. So today's episode is all about nutrition, competitive nutrition. We are going to be talking about the Powered by GRASSFED. Alright, and we've got a little treat from Coach Ollie, who's going to be talking about hanging. There we go, episode 2.
Here comes the ready or not. Here comes the voice from the sound. Here comes the ready or not. How you like me now? I say. Here comes the ready or not. Here comes the voice from the sound. Here comes the ready or not.
Alright, and welcome to episode 2 of Solent Series. Here we are, we're not in our usual lovely box, we are now in lovely Chalk Valley. I'm obviously Zohan on camera, joined by Bex, Sam, Ollie, myself, Dunk, and our special guest today is Will Buckley.
Thank you.
Thank you, welcome to Solent Series. So today we're just going to be talking about nutrition, the GRASSFED movement, and basically ironing out anything that sort of, basically we want to talk about regards to competition nutrition. But firstly, I just want to welcome Will to our Solent series, and he's just going to sort of touch to us about what the GRASSFED movement is all about. So over to you, Will.
Well, we started this business about a year ago, February 2014, and we're farmers. We're farmers. We're quite local. We're about 12 miles away in the Test Valley, and we raise pasture-fed beef and cattle, or cattle and lamb, and also pasture-raised pigs, which all obviously end up, being pushed through the restaurant here. I hadn't come across CrossFit until sometime after we opened the restaurant, actually, but a good friend of mine who used to own a box in London, he told me about CrossFit, and I kind of had to come and introduce myself to Duncan here. And it was only then, and after sort of really looking into what you guys do, that it became apparent quite what the sort of synergies and the symbiosis are between our two sort of businesses, really. So it was just made a lot of sense to hook up with you guys and to try and promote each other's sort of interests and well-being. So we've sort of started off with trying to get lots of the gym members to come up and eat the sort of grass-fed produce that we offer here, but it's a new beginning for us as well.
No, of course. So obviously there's a lot of information out there online and a lot of things that people. So what are you, in regards to the grass-fed, your sort of the main things that people can sort of realize when they sort of, okay, I'm going to choose grass-fed over the general grain?
Sure. Well, the most important thing is the difference between grass-fed and what is 100% grass-fed, and what the conventional sort of husbandry is with the majority of livestock farmers, which is basically that most cattle and frequently sheep or buffalo are finished or fattened on starchy cereal grains. They may have been out during the summer months grazing on meadows and grasslands, but the moment they get put into sheds for the last 3 months typically of their lives, all the goodness that has gone into their sort of the meat is just done away with over that sort of 3-month period. So the difference between grass-fed and 100% grass-fed and what conventional farmers do is that all the beef and the buffalo and the lamb that come through Chalk Valley have been pasture raised for their entire lives. So they've only been given grass or grass-based forage, whether it's hay or haylage or silage.
Right.
And that's the main difference, and that's what gives the animal the better welfare, and also the person that consumes their meat the most nutritious and dense sort of high quality kind of meat.
So with regards to obviously Sam, being our in-house nutritionist, we wanted to sort of try and pick his brains as much as possible with regards to sort of the benefits. Okay. And what would you, obviously speaking to Will in regards to obviously the benefits and sort of full grass-fed, where would you say, speaking to your clients and stuff through the box and everything?
Okay, so the main difference between grain-fed and grass-fed meat is grass-fed meat, at least type of fat called omega-3s and omega-6s, Omega-3 is anti-inflammatory, omega-6 is inflammatory, and we've got too many omega-6s in our diet from all modern foods. So with grass-fed meat, the ratio of omega-3 fats is much higher. They're also much higher in vitamin E and vitamin A, which is two vitamins that are lacking in people's diets. And overall, the meat is also leaner, so there's less fat overall in grass-fed meat than there is grain-fed. So those are the three sort of main nutritional differences.
Okay, wicked. So is that what you use that in your own
marketing?
and
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
on and so forth?
Omega-3s, better balance, the conjugated linoleic acid as well, more of that, and more beta-carotene. So also cancer-beating compounds and heart disease, beating compounds. Not to say about the taste, we feel that the taste is vastly superior, which very briefly kind of stems from the fact that, cattle that are fed on annual plants or grains like barley or, oats or wheat, it's a very shallow rooting plant, whereas you look at a perennial grassland and you get all these great, it's much greater diversity of herbs and grasses and legumes and forbs, and they all root at different levels.
Right.
And those different levels tap into the different nutrients and minerals and amino acids. So this perennial grassland is just much healthier for the animal. It's and it gives a much more improved sort of flavour. It's what the French would call a terroir.
Right. Okay. And certainly, obviously, being a box owner, I find that I know coaches and stuff that it's something that's overlooked in regards to nutrition. We talk about our pyramid, our fitness pyramid, right, in CrossFit, which you've got the nutrition at the bottom. And you move up to your Metcon and so on and so forth. And certainly through CrossFit SOLENT, we try and sort of educate our members as early on as we can, introducing them through nutrition. And I think it's an area that I think a lot of boxers could take advantage of, is linking to a business like this and linking themselves to sort of getting the members aware of nutrition very early on, because I think it's something that they come to the box and they think, okay, they want to lose weight, right? They want to lose calories, right? They just say, right, I want to lose weight or whatever. But I think if we can sort of educate them more through the nutrition, I think we can see a lot of benefit from that.
I mean, with people coming to start training regular basis, usually they either want to burn fat, they want to get leaner, or they want to build muscle, more guys, or they want to increase their performance and they want to get stronger. And whichever one of those three that you were trying to focus on, nutrition to me is kind of 80% of the battle, actually, trying to achieve any of those three. The training program is actually a lot less of the focus. It's the nutrition that really makes a difference in body composition, whether it's getting leaner or it's building muscle. You really have to pay attention.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think too many people do. I agree with that. Think that it's just all about the training and they forget about the simple things with the food. But thanks, Will. Thanks for joining us. So we're going to have a little break. We're going to talk about hanging from Ollie, and we'll be back talking a bit more about nutrition. Yo, what's up, SOLENT Series crew? Zohan on camera, Duncan and Ollie Drew.
What's up, guys?
So today we are going to go through hanging, all right? Ollie's going to take us through the benefits and everything else.
Cool. All right, guys. So, one of the things I suck at is anything overhead. So whether it's handstands, whether it's pressing, overhead squats, anything like that. Years as a swimmer, developed some pretty bad shoulders. So one of my favourite ways of getting everything loose, either sort of in general or before I'm working out, is hanging. So I like to just get up on a pull-up bar and just hang there and just let everything sort of sink down. So Duncan, if you want to jump up, one of the first things I'll do is I will literally just hang from a pull-up bar, trying to get my hands sort of shoulder width, if not a little bit inside, so I'm going to come a bit narrower down. And what that does then, from that body weight just pulls down on everything, so your lats get looser, opens up your delts, also opens up your triceps as well. And I find sometimes if I'm stiff through my back as well, through my T-spine, that lengthening there as well also helps with that. All right. So what I generally try and do is, do a minute or 2 minutes at a time, just hanging from the bar, just passively. So not trying to engage the shoulders or anything like that, and just keeping a nice sort of straight and relaxed line. All right, relax. Cool. The other type of hanging that I do sometimes, especially if I'm looking at overhead squatting or going into some handstand work, is looking at some more active hanging. So pulling, getting those lats going, pulling those shoulder blades together.
Right.
So if you want to face the wall this time, so what I do is I jump up on the bar, get nice and tight in the core first off, so get those abs on, get that kind of hollow hold position, and then I'm looking to sort of pinch those shoulder blades together, get that active position, so get those lats firing, shoulders going, and get everything ready to go for whether it's overhead work or for handstand work. All right, and relax. Well done. Good. Also, working out. It works out sort of your traps and your rhomboids and all through your shoulders as well. Okay, so it's a good thing to get going. Now I know a lot of people, they struggle with grip when it comes to the pull-up bar. So one thing you can do, if you want to do a bit of hanging, is use some wrist straps, use some lifting straps. When I first started doing that, I know that Sam, who also likes to do a bit of hanging, he quite often uses wrist straps, and what you can do, just strap yourself into the bar, have a box beside you, you can strap yourself into the bar, or if you're tall like Duncan, you can just stand there and wrap them around. That's it, and then that just helps with that grip as well, so you're not worrying about your grip strength failing, and that way you can just hang there a bit longer, just get the effects a bit longer as well. There you go. Fantastic stuff.
So, okay, so if we have a member who comes in and is sort of tight in the position, are we trying to get them to sort of relax completely, or if they can't hold themselves, obviously using the straps?
Yeah.
But the idea, what we're trying to do is get them to sort of completely loosen thoratically, or just lats more?
It's more for the lats. It is more, well, this is what I find anyway. It's more, I have tight lats, which is one of the things that hinders my overhead position. So I feel it really through the lats, and just by hanging it just loosens off the lats, and also the triceps as well, hits those a little bit as well. So that's the main thing. But kind of an added bonus, I would say, is the fact that your body weight kind of lengthens out the spine, and that does help that T-spine mobility as well. Cool.
All right, guys, so there we have it. Hanging, simple, but very effective. We can sort of make sure that we can do this anywhere. You don't have to sort of come to the box and do it. You can do it anywhere, find a place. If you're strong enough, maybe do it on your door frame. I don't know. But anyway, so try it out, and there we have it. Hanging. Thanks, guys. All right, welcome back. SOLENT series in Chalk Valley. David on camera, Becky, Sam, Ollie, and joined again by our special guest, Will. So the second part, what we wanted to sort of talk about is the food pyramid, the fitness pyramid, the relationship between CrossFit and nutrition, and iron out a few things that a lot of people have talked about with regards to carbohydrates and so on and so forth. So Sam, let's go. Paleo, what should we say? Let's say your opinion when it comes to sort of the paleoathic diet and carbohydrates and their pyramid.
So my take on as a food template and a fat loss template, I think Paleo's probably one of the best templates that someone can start from if they don't know how to eat well. It's very simple. The food pyramid that CrossFit uses is very simple to follow. Mainly meats and vegetables as a foundation, meat and fish. Add in your vegetables, a little bit of fruit, and then nuts and seeds. But when you add in high intensity exercise like CrossFit, you need carbs. Okay, you need carbs. And I think when people are trying to follow Paleo, they're trying to avoid grain products, things that have got wheat and gluten in. So my sort of go-to carbohydrate sources that I suggest to people is white potato, sweet potato, and white rice. So although white rice is a grain, it doesn't actually have any wheat or gluten in it. So people that are sensitive to bread and pasta and things like that often find that white rice is no problem at all.
And then when it comes to sort of you're measuring for them, so obviously a lot of people, we say, okay, we want to lie, we eat how we feel, right? So like sort of we want to have a lot of carbohydrates, We measure with what?
So in the food system that I use, we use something called the hand system, so we don't weigh food or count calories. If you want protein, a portion of protein for a woman is a palm-sized portion, or 2 palms for a man. Fist is the serving size for vegetables, cupped hand for carbohydrates, and for fats, healthy fats, whether it's seeds, whether it's olive oil, butter, etc. We use a thumb or 2 thumbs, again, if it's a guy.
Okay. I just want to bring Will back in for this. So this is a question I was thinking. So we're talking about this sort of hashtag powered by GRASSFED. Now, is this an area that you think that can fit into the competition sort of scene in regards to sort of the whole, what is the sort of thought behind sort of the hashtag powered by GRASSFED?
Well, yeah, it's obviously, there are huge benefits for, people who perhaps aren't aware of CrossFit, just to sort of see images of people that, are using grass-fed for athletes, such as, you guys here and other athletes that we're aware of. I think it's a British rowing team, some of the rugby, clubs are all using grass-fed meat as one of their sort of principal, sources of protein. But I think it's just generally, it's great for, people generally kind of look to athletes to sort of, follow their nutrition ultimately. So it's great for people to sort of understand that, coming here, it's healthy fast food, really.
No, sure.
Or hopefully. But there's one other thing I'd just like to say, which is quite interesting about the kind of the gluten, kind of people being concerned about gluten, and just from a farmer's perspective, and that is the fact that there are 2 things that, that one can also consider, and that is to sort of try and look at some of the older types of wheat, like the emmer and the spelt and so on, that kind of were about before the sort of mass hybridization of wheats that happened after the sort of, the green revolution, as they called it in agriculture. And the other thing is that a lot of gluten intolerance is potentially perceived to be because of the just prolific use of glyphosate, which is a weed killer, which potentially is kind of causing a lot of some very nasty reactions that some people are considering to be gluten intolerance, but it's actually the chemical residues left over from glyphosate in the conventionally grown wheat and other sort of cereals.
So what you're saying is that the modern way of things now is just completely changed.
It has considerably,
like
since the Second World War. Yeah, it's changed dramatically, and farmers' use of kind of herbicides to control weeds is just going up and up and up and up.
And that's due to sort of a cheaper way of farming, or is it just because?
It's because farmers have become very hardwired into chemical farming. A generation has lost the knowledge of how to farm, perhaps more sustainably, more restoratively, and more organically, ultimately.
Okay, cool. All right, so we touched on in regards to sort of the athlete and the eating healthy and stuff. So we want to sort of bring in Bex in regards to the competition, right? And we've all done sort of competitions, and we know how difficult it is. So Becky, the main thing is sort of how have you found in regards to your sort of previous competition? What sort of difficulties you came across with regards to sort of your eating and so on and so forth? So.
When I first was competing, I found it quite difficult eating enough leading up to the competitions, and just in general in my training, my day-to-day training. I eat a lot more carbs now, so I've added a lot more white rice into my diet, and that's helped with my performance massively. Competition-wise, it's all about eating that week, really, just getting enough in during leading up the last few days leading up to the competition. I tend to at the competitions eat little and often, so and not thinking that you need, just trying to stick to my usual routine, really. You kind of go to a competition thinking you need to eat a lot more, and you need to kind of maybe think you've got to eat something different in terms of you need that sugar, but no, if you try and stick to your usual diet, that's what I tried to do. But my main thing was just eating more carbs and just hanging out with the guys as well, that helps.
So it keeps coming up, doesn't it? It keeps coming up with the fact that we automatically think that we shouldn't be eating the amount of carbs that we should, because this paleo thing has got over our head and sort of.
Yeah, so
do you see what I mean? Like
low carb equals fat loss. Low carb equals fat loss, and that is true to a certain extent. And generally, when people get started trying to lose weight, they're overweight to begin with. But when you get to a certain amount of leanness, whether you're man or woman, and take Becky as an example, we looked at Becky's diet a few months ago, and actually we upped her calories quite significantly and upped her calories in terms of carbs.
Well, people don't realise how much they're eating until they actually write it down. Like you get a lot of people to do. They're like, oh, hang on a sec, if I write this down for a day, then you check out how many calories they've done, and they're not eating
especially if you're eating quite well already and you're probably eating quite a lot of whole food, you realise how much that in terms of calories, it's not a lot. So actually one thing I'd say to people, if you're not sure about where you are in terms of diet, write down what you're eating for 3 or 4 days, and then it becomes abundantly obvious, I'm not getting enough protein, I'm not eating enough carbs, or I'm just not eating enough calories in total. And Becky is an example. When she'd upped how much food she was eating because she trains quite a lot, she actually dropped body fat and put on muscle once she started eating more. And that's not to say for everyone to do that, but when you're at sort of...
That's great. Eat more, man, and lose body fat.
Eat more grass-fed.
Eat more grass-fed down at Chalk Valley. That is it. That is it. So, all right. But so, any tips that we can sort of, obviously on competition day it's hard, right? You've got a WOD, then you've got to replenish. So you've got a WOD, then you've got to... Where would you say it's the best? Like straight away? Give some tips.
Well, I can run you through what I do. I tend to have a bowl of porridge in the morning with a bit of protein shake and a protein shake. But yeah, in between WODs I'll have a banana. Maybe I've made a little like kind of cup size sort of dish of rice and some meat. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But kind of, like I said, little and often really helps me. Just keep on top of the fueling up.
Not changing things, right?
Yeah.
Not changing things too drastically.
So actually for competition day nutrition, it's actually all in the prep. So it's if you're resting the week before competition or 4 or 5 days before the competition, then you're eating just sort of typical paleo, and then a couple of days beforehand you're starting upping your carbs at each moderate portion each meal. And then so actually by the time you get to say Saturday morning and that's your competition, you've actually filled up your muscles with glycogen, with the carbs that you need. So really you don't need to be eating as many carbs throughout the day or food in general, because you've just been trying to sort of stock up a couple of days beforehand. So having like Becky said, a small bowl of porridge in the morning, and then sort of regular small little bits of food throughout the day, so that's not interfering with your workouts. And then again getting into the evening and having a big meal again. And if you're having to do it for a second day in a row, then the same pattern. But certainly don't eat anything that you are sensitive to or that you don't usually eat. So it's not the competition day is not the time to try out a new food.
No, of course, yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people make the mistake. They go through that. So if you are competing at the highest level with the CrossFit, is practice it, right? Do a week of prepping and have a day, and then maybe 2 weeks before the actual competition, so you know how your body's going to react, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if you've got a competition coming up 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so if it's on a weekend, it's on a Saturday, and you're doing a full day of training for your competition, 2 or 3 Saturdays before that, you should be doing 2 or 3 workouts like you will at the competition and eating like you will on that day, so that when you get to the competition, it's completely normal. What you're doing is normal to you, it's your routine.
Yeah. All right, welcome back. We just had to get some energy with some food, and I had a bit of a malfunction with our camera. But yeah, we still got David on camera. We were going to fire him, but we don't now, so he's back on camera. Sam, Bex, Ollie, and obviously Will. So yeah, we were just mentioning about the competition nutrition, and obviously we also have the SOLENT endurance section, and obviously Ollie heads that up. So in regards to sort of speaking to people, because I know you just come back from the fan dance,
yeah.
Right?
So a few of us from the gym, we did sort of an adventure race middle of last month, which is the fan dance, basically based on one of the marches from Special Forces selection. So it's in the Welsh Mountains. You've got a backpack with sort of 35, 40 pounds in it, and you're sort of against the clock completing a course across the Welsh Mountains. And yeah, it was good fun, but it was long. I think it was about 25, 30 Ks in total. So
what kind of challenges would you say? So obviously using that as like endurance,
yes.
But obviously it's a different kind of endurance that you would see with regards to a triathlete, but it's still an endurance. What kind of sort of challenges would you come across with regards to the nutrition side of things for those?
Okay, yeah, I mean, obviously your traditional endurance athlete, you see them, you know, you run or you triathlete, whatever. it's all about the carb loading, so to speak. You know, a couple of days before you start whacking in all the pasta and getting as much carbs on board as possible. But you know, a lot of things these days are showing that, like Sam said earlier, you know, there's no point in doing that big sort of carb load before or on the day, because your muscles can only absorb so much. There's only so much energy that they can take on beforehand. So definitely with my athletes, what we recommend is just we up the carbs a little bit, sort of in the week building up towards an event they're doing, whether it's a triathlon or a marathon or whatever it is. But broadly, they're eating the same things because the training they're going through is fairly high volume, fairly high intensity anyway. So they need, you know, just like CrossFit, they need to be sort of fueling themselves anyway.
Sure, yeah.
So there's no, with the guys I work with, yes, there's a little bit of a carb increase, but it's the same sort of sources as, you know, as we promote sort of in CrossFit really. It's, you know, sweet potatoes, white rice, no sort of complex carbs or anything like that. Because, you know, a lot of sort of traditional fueling athletes, they do this big carb load with pasta, and then I'm sure you've seen on the internet the number of people that, you know, have, you know, really bad indigestion problems and all the rest of it whilst they're in these races. And it's because, one, they've sort of overloaded on all these carbs, but two, their stomach just can't cope with it. So that's one of the reasons why
can you train that?
You can train that? Yeah, you can, definitely, absolutely. You can.
So you could get used to sort of eating that large amount of carbohydrates and carbo load before a race, no? Or not?
I don't know. I personally can't, and the athletes that I've worked with, you know, in the past and more recently, their bodies just can't cope with it. I mean, some can. It just depends on sort of your natural tolerances and what you're eating. But a lot of people just can't cope with that, especially sort of your more sort of amateur athletes. They just can't cope with it. Their stomachs just can't cope with it. So it seems sort of counterproductive to me to do that, you know. And also too, it's just not good for your health.
No.
So I mean, like I say, in terms of pre-race fueling, we're pretty much exactly the same as sort of the standard CrossFit recommendations, what we've been talking about sort of through this, you know, through this discussion really. Race day, it depends on the length of the race.
Right.
For anything under 2 hours, the sort of the glycogen stores you've got, and you know, all that sort of stuff, I generally say don't worry about sort of taking on nutrition. Don't worry about taking anything with you, because you've got basically enough there to get you through the race. Just making sure you've got electrolytes and water. That'll get you through. Anything more than that, then yes, we do need to start looking at sort of taking on nutrition and stuff. But what I always tell athletes to avoid is things like the gels and the heavy sugar stuff. Because once you get onto that heavy sugar stuff, you're dependent on it, because you'll just go up and then you'll crash. You go up and you'll crash.
So you just take those for the remainder of your race.
Yeah, you're relying on them then. So we work on sort of different fuel sources, liquid-based fuel sources, but different ones.
Okay,
so.
Cool. All right, thanks, Ollie. So obviously the final thoughts we just want to sort of finish with you, Will, in regards to sort of staying on this sort of carb sort of topic, so to speak. I think, have you noticed with that, obviously the options with regards to your food, we've got one right here, the picking of the lettuce bun as opposed to the regular.
Yeah, we just did some research on our till, and it's somewhere between 15 and 20% of all the customers coming in now are going for carb-free options, either a lettuce wrap, a naked burger, or having just sort of beef patties on salads.
Did you think this was going to be a big player for you?
No, had no idea.
No idea.
No idea.
Oh, okay.
So, extraordinary.
Fantastic. All right, well, so finally, thanks very much, Will, for joining us and letting us do our SOLENT series in Chalk Valley. Thanks, guys, for a great discussion. And just a sort of reminder, don't forget you can hit us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and our YouTube channel. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.